There's nothing easy about grief and loss, and in my opinion, The Sopranos powerfully illustrates grief and its many complexities in its many forms. The certainty and inevitability of death is extremely frightening to me, and it brings up many questions, one of which Tony highlights for Dr. Melfi in Denial, Anger, Acceptance. If all this shit's for nothing, why do I gotta think about it? There's no shortage of death on The Sopranos, but death is so much more than just the particulars. The who, what, when, where, and why. But the feelings that linger, and the people, places, things, and emotions that remain in the aftermath, and figuring out just what life means without that person or animal in it anymore. So that's what this video is about. Death and grief on The Sopranos, in its many forms, and with all the stuff that comes with it.
Renata, please. Oh, wait. Renata.
I'm not going to go through literally every single death on the show, but what I am going to do is use examples from specific deaths. Losing a child, losing a parent, a friend, a spouse, a sibling, a pet, or an animal, and what that can look or feel like. So, with all of that said, let's begin.
But Jackie, to see this strong, beautiful man just wither away to nothing. You can't do nothing about it.
Why we're given the questionable gift of knowing that we're gonna die.
Sometimes you probably don't even hear it when it happens. As AJ points out in D-Girl, death just shows the ultimate absurdity of life. I think of those words when we hear about deaths like Uncle Tom's father, who fell off the roof the day after retiring.
Aunt Barb called. Uncle Tom's father died.
65. Guy works his whole life, takes care of his family, does the right thing. One day after he retires. One day.
Even the fatal car accident of the two kids that AJ went to high school with.
Domenica Paolini and Sasha Caputo, they were on their way to school this morning and they hit a tree. Nick is dead. Sasha's in a coma.
And they say there's nothing like losing a child.
We commend to Almighty God our brother, Giacomo Michael Aprile Jr., and we commit his body to the ground.
Now, what made Rose's grief particularly complicated is that she had just lost her husband, Jackie Sr., of cancer 2 years prior. So this was like a loss on top of loss for her. And sometimes, along with the sadness, comes regret or guilt, feeling like you didn't do enough, or that you should have been there to help, and that if you were, that person wouldn't have died. Like in Bobby's case, when his wife gets in a car accident, and he was pissed that she had wanted him to pick up something from the store on the way home.
Your mother's a real pain to you-know-what sometimes.
And those ambulances right up there, those are for Karen's accident. Talk about another punch to the gut.
I should have known. I should have known you needed me. I should have been with you. My love. My sweet love.
And Karen wasn't just somebody's spouse. She was somebody's friend. And even more importantly, she was somebody's mom.
Sometimes when I'm walking down the hallway, I can smell her hair.
Well, maybe if we did something bad, she'd haunt us for her own good.
The relative stated that the victim had surprised his friends and family by declaring himself a homosexual and saying he wished to lead an openly gay lifestyle. I don't understand. Dad wasn't a spy? No.
Gloria Trillo, she gave me a ride home that day. She committed suicide.
I'm not trying to tell you exactly what's going on in Tony's head, but I think we can say for sure that he definitely feels something for Gloria, which is why he sees her again in his test dream later on in season 5.
Sometimes what happens here is like taking a shit.
I prefer to think of it as more like childbirth.
Maybe it is more like childbirth. You tell me.
I don't have any children. I died too young.
Last conversation with him was an argument, if you can call it that, about him always asking me to accept FedEx packages for him. But you never really know why.
Let's get back to Pi Oh My.
And here's where we come to the animals.
You haven't grieved in this way for people. Your mother, your best friend.
Well, let's be clear. One of them tried to kill him, and the other one was a rat.
Anthony, do any of your associates think about any of this?
Well, most of his associates don't talk out loud about their feelings. Just because someone doesn't talk about something, particularly death and grief, doesn't mean they're not thinking about it. Anyway, just food for thought.
Hello. What? Oh, no, that's terrible.
Just like Patsy Parisi told us, sometimes it won't be cinematic.
Uncle Zio found her on the couch after Meet the Press.
Sometimes it just happens out of nowhere.
Oh, no. God damn it. It's like that game we used to play as kids. Crack the whip. You run around like an idiot, holding hands as tight as you can, and then the line snaps. Somebody lets go, and you're next.
Go visit my father, if you'd like to join me.
5 hours they let me out for these funerals. I gotta spend it being maudlin?
Leave it to Uncle Junior to inject some comic relief into an otherwise not very comical situation, which is actually something that people do all the time in real life. And I think for good reason. Humor, comedy, laughing can be the best medicine.
In the 2 weeks that followed, Nicolo struggled without her, finally succumbing to irredeemable loss.
It's called broken heart syndrome. The medical term for it is stress-induced cardiomyopathy, and it's not very well known or very well understood, but it's been seen in people who have suffered severe emotional distress, like a widow at her husband's funeral, hearing that a child is in a bad accident and has died, etc. So, it's possible that that's the case here. I think what makes this extra hard for Junior, not only the fact that he's attending the funerals of people that he grew up with and knew for many years, but it's also the fact that these two people who just died, they were married, they were each other's soulmates for many, many years, and Junior never had that. And as he faces this mortality, as he faces these funerals and death, he doesn't really have that to fall back on as a source of comfort.
Oh.
In Sil's case, he's not only a father, but also a spouse and a friend, and a consigliere, if we want to bring the whole work life into it too. And this is what love looks like. What makes Sil's case extra complicated is that he's in the in-between. He's not really alive, but he's not dead. Technically, he's alive, but he's not conscious. He's not likely to make any recovery whatsoever. But they still want to hold on. If I was Gabby Dante, I'd still see my husband, this person, in the flesh, right in front of me. It'd be hard to let go. And particularly for Tony, it's a friend who's actually had his back, that he doesn't have to think twice about, that he knows is loyal to him and isn't trying to cause his death. You know how I said grief was complicated? It is. But there's also an official term called complicated grief. As with all forms of grief, there's no set formula, but certain things can make it more likely that someone will suffer prolonged grief or complicated grief, like the sudden and unexpected death of someone. Unresolved conflicts before the loved one's passing, not knowing what exactly happened to the person. One example of absent grief that I think we can see on The Sopranos is Tony losing his mother, Livia. Delayed grief, perhaps we can think of Christopher with Adriana.
That's for a pocket dog.
So chronic grief, if, for example, Bobby had continued to feel this deep state of sadness for a long period of time without feeling any better, I'd say that'd be chronic grief. Even Angie Bonpensero, she was not happy with Puss by any stretch of the imagination, but it was still her husband that she was married to for 20-something years, and not really knowing exactly what happened to him, I think can really take a toll on someone. Though, as we see, Angie's very resilient. So, to wrap it all up, unlike many other videos of mine, I wasn't ranking these losses by how significant or impactful they were for the Sopranos series as a whole. The truth is, both on The Sopranos and in real life, there's no surefire way to quantify or measure grief and feelings of loss that accompany losing someone important to us. Someone can also include pets and other non-human animal companions that we hold near and dear to us. There's no way of sugarcoating things, though I find that humor is often the best medicine for me personally. Humor and connecting with others, and that includes you. Remember, you're never alone. And as Janice says it,
it's very easy for people to give facile advice. Suck it up, move on, etc. I'm not going to tell you that. Grieving is a process. Sometimes courage isn't a value.
I can pay my respects from the after party.
After party?
Thanks for watching. I know this isn't a happy subject, but I hope this video was meaningful to you in one way or another.